I'm going to make this quick video about the XY theta adjustment on an 885 screen printer. This is an older printer, and we had a few questions about why you have the backlash when you turn one way and then it takes a while to go back the other way, and same thing possibly on theta. And X is usually the least amount of backlash. So we're going to start with some basics. You have to make sure that this is loose and this is loose before you turn the knob to move Y, okay? Because this plate, if these are locked, you will be wearing out the mechanism because you're trying to turn it and it's locked. Next thing is this lock here must be loosened and unlocked for the theta to turn, okay? If it's locked, you're going to have a hard time and you're going to feel like more backlash. So the first thing I want to show you is this is the theta lock, this is the theta plate. The theta plate has a nut and a spring here. You need to make sure that this nylon locking nut is still holding, because it's a nylon locking nut and they get worn out through age, and the spring has some compression on it. And there's also some washers in there, some thrust washers. So this is very important to make sure there's no sloppiness there. When you take this arc plate off, the grease under here gets old and sticky or hard, and then when I'm turning this plate, it doesn't move freely like this one, okay? So that grease in there needs, typically we recommend to take this apart every year or two and clean in there, clean the old grease out, put new grease, and make these adjustments, okay? So that's the theta plate. While you have the theta plate off and cleaning and greasing, you make sure there's no wear under there. You want both plates to be flat and not worn out. If there's any burrs, we stone them down to smooth out any burrs. The next plate under here is called the Y plate. The Y plate is locked with these two locks. When you take this mechanism off and take the Y plate off, there's also two plates with some grease, and there's something called gibs under here. These gibs are metal, two metal pieces made out of steel, and this plate rides forward and back. These gibs wear out through time because that's the motion of going back and forth. So they either need to be replaced or reground. But you just can't do that and assemble it and think it's going to work. Those gibs need to be aligned tightly to each other, so when you press this plate on, there's no slop. So that's something that a trained technician typically will do, is replace these gibs or have them surface ground down. But you need to know how to put them in tightly so when this motion happens, it doesn't move in Y and X, okay? So that's very important. The next thing I want to show you is this connector over here. This connector is a spring connector. It's a common replacement part. It has some set screws on it. When these set screws get loose, or the shaft that these set screws attach to get worn out, you feel like you have backlash in here. And this is a common replacement part, along with these thrust bushings, and there's some brass bushing in here. If that gets loose, you have some slop. But there's a lot of connections that need to make sure they're tight. On these knobs are typically pinned so they don't become loose generally. And the final thing I'm going to go over is the X shaft. The X shaft should move freely. You can see this one, I'm moving and the indicator stopped moving. It's not that the mechanism's not moving, it's just that the indicator is bad. See that? The indicator's stuck. So that indicator should be replaced. At a bare minimum, extend it out and try to oil it, but we typically would just replace this indicator, because now the operator thinks they're moving a certain amount and it's not even showing them anything, okay? So X does not have a lock because the screen printer pushes forward and back, and there's no need to have the X lock. But there's some bushings, there's a plastic washer here, there's more bushings here. So you need to make sure that this is tight in that bushing, it's not sloppy, and it's spring-loaded back. So this typically doesn't have any backlash to the X. But once again, we take this apart, we clean this, and we set this back. You do need to make sure that these set screws are tight. This knob attaches to a shaft in there, and if they're loose, then you'll have some backlash here. Okay, so bottom line, make sure your indicators are working. Make sure you place this spring coupler that we have. Make sure that there's not slop between the knob and the lead screws. And there's some bushings in here. There's various bushings. There's also a set screw here to tighten up the play in this screw. And that's the XYT screen positioner, and just the basics of it for this video. But this definitely needs to be taken apart, cleaned, re-greased, and the gibs replaced and aligned to have a machine that's like new. Thank you.